from the audience? Mr. Mayor would like to give us a report.
So I apologize. We pulled that mayor's report off because the tax commission website's been down. And so when I came back from my meeting about 3:45, Jay checked and it had just come back up and we had just got the numbers. So I have those. I think, did you guys get your copy? So just go through that real quick, and then I've added some other stuff that I've been working on there. Altogether, the taxes were up $16,896 over last month, and $104,865.32 over last year. So in the sales tax, we were up $10,308 over last month, with $77,377 over last year. Use tax, that was kind of a nice one. We were up $57.8228 last month versus last year we were down $27.227.42 compared to this year. So nice little increase for this year on the use tax. What we're seeing is that average. The last 5-year average on the use tax has gone from, well, if we start in 2021 year, we went from 81,000 to 96, back down to 88, up to 99, and now we're at 102,000 on an average. And then tobacco tax was up 805.96 over last month and 260 over last year. So altogether, like I said, that brings us up. You're looking at the averages have come up. The averages will come up. They'll go back down as the numbers increase. Anyways, I wanted to add one of the things that I've been working on, and I'm going to add another block to this. And I apologize. I'm almost done with it. I just have the graph to do, and then it'll be added. But I'm going to add the hotel motel tax income on that. I want to be very clear that we remember that that is not included in our sales tax that we get. That'll just be for reference purposes. We've had a lot of people ask, well, what's the sales or the hotel motel tax income look like? What's that? So, and so far we've only got the 22, 23, 23, 24, and then the 24, 25 year. So I'd like to give you those numbers now if you want to write those down. The 22, 23 year hotel motel tax averaged $71.29 a month for a total of $85,554.53. Last year, the 23-24 year averaged $73.89 with a total of $88,677.96. And then of course this year we only have the 1 month recorded, and that's at $9,549.05. So
9,000 what?
$9,549.05. So I think, it'll be nice to start seeing that total as well. That'll start bringing in, a visual of what every bit of that income is. And, if there's ever anything else you guys would like to see on that, just get with me and we can start trying to collect that data. But we need to remember that when we add that to that hotel motel tax is not to be included in our total for what the general fund receives. Any questions on that?
I don't have any.
Comments, concerns?
Use taxes going up. We'll probably get more if we start doing building.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay,
I don't think we did roll call.
that's probably right. We need to get that done too.
Lori Bradshaw,
Here.
Charles Trimmel,
Here.
Joy Shropshire.
Here. Okay, discuss possibly approve the minutes of August 29, 2024 special meeting. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trimmel,
Yes.
Shropshire.
Yes. Okay. Now to the fun part. Discuss possible recommend council action regarding general government budget fund number 201 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Okay. The budget adjusted that we got for this one looks like it's dropped, what, around 11%? Somewhere around that?
So first of all, is this the budget that Coker developed?
Correct.
Where is he?
He's supposed to be here. I was just taking a look to see if he made it in. He said he would be here, so.
It don't look like what we asked him to do actually got performed, like the insurance and stuff that he was supposed to already put it to where it was supposed to be. It don't look like all that got taken care of. Wages didn't for sure.
This budget is not doable. It's not, what is the word I'm looking for? It does what, I guess what we asked. He put the 900,000 in unallocated reserves, and that's kind of where it ended. The expectation is that he would first allocate the 8.3 million portion to must fund, the non-discretionary spending, and then he would go forward and allocate the remainder to the discretionary spending pot of accounts. That has not happened. It appears that there's a budget sitting in front of us that we know we're going to be overspending, and we'll just end up pulling out of that $900,000 unallocated reserve. And that's infuriating to me.
It's almost a given that we're gonna have to go into unallocated. That's gonna happen at the end of the year for sure.
Are you looking for a comment from me?
No, I'm just giving a statement. I honestly don't see how we can keep $900,000 in unallocated reserves and even attempt to make, we're gonna make it the first 6 months, and then after that, it's gonna start falling apart.
You can keep it in there.
Huh?
You can do it. You can stay at 8.3 million. It's just going to take very difficult and painful cuts, but that's what it's going to take to stay at that 8.3 million cap that Jeff has recommended.
If we do this budget, this is kind of the way it is. If we do this budget, when we run out of money toward the end of the year, then all of those papers that we sign every month, we're gonna have to have an extra meeting and have to encumber those funds as a council, every one of them, before they can pay the bill. So if we have a truck at the street department that the battery goes down on or something, and they need a battery, they're gonna have to wait until we have another council meeting to come in and encumber the funds to go down to the parts house to even get a battery to keep working. If that's the way that we wanna play this.
Or
If-
Staples,
Anywhere.
or copy
Or
paper,
anywhere, you know.
or, I mean, that becomes every single
If you
thing
have
that,
a part that breaks on a fire truck, the fire truck's down, they can't order a part until we come to a meeting or a special meeting and encumber the funds to pull out of unallocated to buy that device. Is that correct?
Are you looking for a statement from me?
Yeah.
So, in essence, the request, we're not gonna get into the little details of what the requests were, but the general request to the council was to have 900,000 in unallocated. Look, and I don't know how many ways to say it, our legal budgetable amount is what we need to send to the excise board. Whether we like that number or not, it needs to go there, and it needs to go there now. It's late. If we take 8.3 and we put 900,000 in unallocated, it's still 9.2. We're not changing anything. The only thing we're changing is the control that the council has over every little purchase once we break this point of what that does to our budget. This is now the second time we've sent out a budget with that large amount in unallocated reserve. Yeah, listen, I'm with you. I'd love to see big numbers in unallocated reserve, but we don't have them. Point in case is that we didn't create this. It's there. We have to fix it. And until we're all like-minded, the same mind that says, we've got to be careful with what we spend. That's the bottom line. We know. The department heads have been told it's not a free-for-all. It's not going to be acceptable. That's not the case. But if we budget a number that doesn't protect us for what we already know could be an overspend, then we're going to have bigger problems than we think now. The reason Jeff gave us the 9.2 is that's the formula, that's the process. What you take in, what you put out, must plus MUBs plus this, all this big long formula. You did it last year. When we get that 9.2, that is our legal budgetable amount.
I
Now,
don't think anyone's arguing with that.
no, but here's been what I've heard, what Courtney's heard. I'm gonna throw Lisa in there too, because she's sitting there and I've pointed to her. What Jeff has heard is that we want this reserve, we want this unallocated amount, we want that amount in there, we want that amount in there. We have looked at this budget 10 ways of tomorrow. We have trimmed and trimmed and trimmed to get the 9.2 that we need to be a legally budgeted amount, even to the point where it's still not realistic, but it balances and it works and we can make it work. If we don't budget our legal budgetable amount, we budget something less, we're gonna be in a bigger world of hurt next year.
Well, what's gonna keep a department, if you have 900,000 in unallocated reserves, what's gonna keep a department from saying, you guys got all this money in reserve, why don't we get a pay raise?
Because the department heads are team players, and the department heads know. We've talked about it. You got one in here, you can ask her if you don't believe me. We've talked about it. And we need to give credit to those department heads
Oh, yeah.
who are working their butts off. Morale is taking a hit, the efforts are taking a hit, but the longer we push this off, those department heads don't know what to do with their departments. They don't know what kind of hours to schedule, they don't know what kind of things to do. We've got a number that our accountant gave us, and yet we're rejecting that number because we don't like the way it looks.
I am not rejecting the 9.2 million. I get we have to obligate obligate that 9.2 million. I am taking exception, and the word I was looking for is a farce. This budget is a farce. What I am taking exception to is that someone has put the $900,000 in unallocated reserves, and then there was no strategic thinking, no strategic thought put into how we further allocate that 8.3 million. He has still got your budget, or I'm sorry, your salary, Mayor.
At 81.
10,000 less.
Correct. That's what we're gonna run into with every salary. And every time we get to the end of that amount with that requested, with that unallocated number in there, and having that reserve, whether it's 600,000 or 900,000, however that breaks down is absolutely irrelevant at this point. But if we don't budget that 9.2 that he gave us to legally budget, every payroll, every transaction, like she said, every staple, every bottle of water, everything we do, every box of crayons we buy is gonna require council approval and a budget transfer made by the clerk to purchase anything.
Are you talking coming out of unallocated reserves?
Anything, yeah, that unallocated reserve is gonna deplenish as soon as we hit that 8.3 budget, which,
7
Yeah,
months?
yeah,
Which
and that's-
is going to be hit.
And that's my concern.
we know this isn't gonna work. We
Then
know
we
this
should-
isn't gonna work. That's why we presented one last time that was 9.2 and not this. And shortly before that, we presented another one that was similar to this, where Jeff did an 11% reduction across the board, because there were some that said, we'd love to see an across-the-board reduction. We did that, and it was like, all panic ensued by everybody. So the clerk and I sat down for 2 days solid. We cut, and we cut, and we cut, and we cut, and we looked at every purchase order, and we looked at every line item. Correct? Am I wrong? And then we went back the next day and we cut and we cut and we cut and we came up with a number that balanced. And at one point we were down to a couple $100. And I said, make it work. Take it out of this. Take it out of this to get that number to balance. And then we realized that a formula was wrong in one of our spreadsheets. And we had to go back and we put us back to 40,000. We cut and we figured and we reduced and we cut positions out of jobs and we have cut and cut. But if we go to 8.3, this is what we're telling you. You go to 8.3, you're not gonna get a budget that's functional. It's gonna look just like this.
Then we need to be making serious cuts now.
Where?
Personnel.
That's a decision that the council needs to make.
But that's a decision that you as the mayor need to, or not a decision, but we need options. That, you know, and that was the expectation of the, I think of the full council, is that there would be a budget presented to us that is logical, that has the 8.3 million allocated across the accounts with an explanation of this is what's going to have to happen to get to that 8.3 million. We're not doing that right now. I mean,
Respectfully, I gave two budgets that balanced. I gave two budgets that balanced, and we came back and we did an 11% across the board cut like everybody asked for. We did that, it wasn't gonna work. We presented another budget, it wasn't gonna work. We presented this, knowing that this would be the response we got out of it, because the last time we did pretty much the same thing, it didn't work. The legal budgetable amount is called the legal budgetable amount for a reason.
we're not, no one is questioning the legal.
You're not
budgetable
questioning
amount.
that, but we're not accepting it either.
I'm accepting the 9.2 million.
So the
I
budget
get we
that
have
we
to do
gave-
that.
The budget that we
I'm
gave,
not accepting the fact that we're not demonstrating that we're willing to take the cuts necessary to stay at the 8.3 million that our city accountant has recommended we not exceed.
that 8.3 million is a recommendation, it is not our legal budgetable amount.
It's,
And we have,
the difference between the 8.3 million and our legal budgetable amount was the 900,000, which he recommended we put into unallocated reserves. You did that. It is, this budget sitting in front of us tonight has the 900,000.
and that's what it's gonna look like.
But it's not, it's not realistic. Your word was realistic, my word was a farce. It's not fair to our citizens to sit here and pass this budget knowing it's not a realistic budget. We've got to stop kicking the can down the road, and we've got to start talking about the cuts necessary so we don't continue to pull out of unallocated reserves.
So I would
That's
like
what
to
it's
ask
all
the
about.
council where those cuts are gonna start. Where are they gonna start? Who's gonna start it?
You're the mayor. You need to come to us and with,
gave you a balanced budget.
with options.
I gave you a balanced budget. Lori, did you have something?
I do. I think after a month now between budget meetings, and I think even Mr. Colker last time at our budget meeting, even was having conversation.
It's okay.
No, you're good. You're good. So you're early on your time, so you're good. So it really doesn't matter in our budget, in this 9.24, where the money's at. As far as like the unallocated funds, when Courtney and you sat down and gave us, and I know that Mr. Colker was involved in that too, that first budget for our last meeting, that allocated everything and no unallocated reserves, right? That is a reasonable, in my eyes, that's a reasonable workable budget with what we need to spend. It doesn't make any sense in my mind to put any money in unallocated funds right now, simply because we're going to have to move it. And I just don't think, I think that cuts have happened so much already. I think this has cuts in it, this budget that we got that allocated all of the 9.2 into this already. As I've got to look more and more at it. And I think that for one more year, we need to continue, as the mayor has told us he's done with department heads, to, just because it's budgeted doesn't mean you need to spend it. Obviously the fixed monies, payroll, those type of things. But as a leader, be responsible with your monies, you know, really be talking to your people. I know that's hard for morale and stuff when you have no money. But it's even worse when you have to start saying, we're gonna start laying people off. And I feel like if we are responsible with the monies that we're budgeting, nobody wants to lay anybody off. And department heads sure don't wanna do that. I know as a council, I sure don't wanna be responsible for laying anybody off. So
how would we,
how do you even determine that? Like, how do you, I mean, I just,
well, I mean,
that's,
how would you lay somebody off if you had 900,000 in reserves and another possible 900,000 that's not budgeted, which would put you at about 1.8, right?
What?
You only budgeted 90% of the budget, right?
90% of the revenues plus 100% of the carryover.
Okay.
Right, so that's one I,
What would that other 10% of revenues be?
well, that was that, when I gave you the $8.3 million figure, that is your 100% basically of your repeatable revenue, okay? So 8.3 million was revenue, 100%. I think we had some non-repeatable stuff that was in the mix, but this is what we're shooting for, is the repeatable. So that's why when the budget is 9.2, we budgeted 90% of all revenue, and then we added the reserve, and so we came up with the 9.2. But the 100% of your revenues, in order for you not to use any of your fund balance, the carryover, is about 8.3 million. Okay.
Can we run a city on 8.3 million?
Well, I'm sure you could, but last year you ran it on 8.9. Right?
And
So,
we did that without unallocated reserves.
well, basically, that's what you spent. So you don't really spend the unallocated reserves, that's just in there. But you spent $8.9 million, and your revenues were approximately $8.3 million. So that will give you, that's where we came up with that 600,000 that needed to be cut. So it worked out that your total budget, legal budget, is the 9.2 million. So I guess this budget, I was told last time we wanted the 900,000 reserve, so I did that. But in effect, though, it's just where you put the numbers, actually, at
right,
this point.
right, that's what you told us last time.
Right, I mean, you're going to spend what you're going to spend. Whatever, you know, unless you make some changes, I'm going to estimate that you're going to spend about the same amount as you did last year.
Which we will drain out of our reserves even more.
Possibly, yes, unless you have some other additional revenues that you make during the year. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and that's where not to go down that rabbit hole, but that's where until we're all like-minded, that revenues are the thing that we all are gonna get on the same page with, you know? Went to a conference recently, and the community there that we talked to was so like-minded in their revenues that they were willing to put a business inside that corridor of City Hall to allow a business at a table to bring in whatever revenues they could get. They were that dedicated to the revenues. And, you know, I'm just gonna say it, and I'm not pointing fingers, but it's frustrating when we've heard in meetings that the revenues aren't the most important thing, that we don't have time for those revenues. We really have to focus and all get on the same page that is the most important thing that we do right now, is find ways to increase revenues. And it's gonna take 8 council members, a mayor, clerks, and employees and department heads putting our minds together how we're gonna do it. I can't do it by myself. I can't run the city by myself. I don't wanna run it by myself. It takes a council, it takes an accountant, it takes department heads. You know, and so when we sit here and we say, well, what are you gonna do? but what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna change our mindset to where we're gonna focus on those things that we're told to do? We're gonna focus on cuts, but we're also gonna focus on revenues, and it's gonna become that important to Pryor Creek that if we gotta put a candle vendor in the hallway of City Hall to make some money, we'll do it. But at this point, we hear cut, 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 and we don't have time for revenues. We ain't gonna get anywhere. We're not gonna get anywhere if we don't put our thoughts into how we can do it. We came off of a good weekend with good revenues. I'm sure we'll see a spike. I would hope we'd see a spike. And, you know, the fringe benefit is at the same token, we got a little morale in our town because we need it right now. It's a great weekend.
There are multiple department heads that have come forward and said if that is budgeted, their expectation is that they can spend it.
And those department heads have sat in a meeting, and all of them have been told that that is insubordination and sabotage. Just because you have it doesn't mean you get to spend it, and that's not the attitude we're going to take.
Well, if we pass this 8-3 budget, we are going to have to realize that we are going to have to go into the unallocated reserves in excess.
At some point, but that gives you the option to say yea or nay, apparently. I mean, if a department head says he's gonna spend it, I'm not saying, but let's just say, it's less there to spend, right? So it's not there, so now you guys can decide whether or not you're going to move stuff over or not with this 900,000 in the unallocated. So, you know, it's generally speaking, the budget transfers are board approved.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the figures that you came up in here though are not doable.
Well, that's probably right, because like I said, this is an 8.3 million budget, and you're going to probably spend 8.9 unless you do something different. So,
And that's the key, unless we do something different. That's what that's what the council was expecting to see in the budget it was presented.
but see, I can't make that decision.
No, you can't. That's, no, you can't.
And so the thing is you can pass this budget and still make decisions affecting expenditures at any point in time during the rest of this year. You know, so this budget, for good or for bad, it's a budget. But you guys can affect this budget at any point in time during the year. I mean, you could hire 1,000 people. Wouldn't do that. But you could, you know,
Yeah,
not hire anybody.
we're not going to do that.
No, but I'm just saying that your decisions impact this more than anything. So you guys can say yes to stuff, you can say no to stuff, you can say we're going to do this or that, and it will affect this budget, your expenditures accordingly.
Trying to figure out if we're gonna run into any legal ramifications down the road near the end of our year when we're gonna say, well, we're gonna have to have a reduction in force, let's say, and we have this amount of money in reserves.
Well, see, the thing is you'll probably end up moving some of that reserve money. It's just another line item in the allocation of the budget. It's not really, truly what I would call your reserve money. It's just a place in the budget. Now, if your revenues are exceeding your expenditures, that would be sufficient reasoning to do cuts if you need to do cuts for anything, you know, whether it be, you know, just whatever. But the goal is to try at least some point either increase the revenue or decrease the expenditures so that your revenues and your expenditures are at least the same.
So if we, let's say, have a windfall and increase our revenues, how would you put it into the budget?
Well, you don't really put it in the budget, so you've budgeted all you can really at this point in time, this $9.2 million. Now you can still allocate things out, like if you want to move some of that unallocated to salaries or to fuel or just to whatever you need to move it to, that's fine. Now, I mean, if it was a huge, huge windfall and we needed to amend the budget, we could amend the budget, you know, to show an increase in revenue and allow you to spend more if that was necessary. But still, if you get a windfall, unless it is a repeatable windfall, then it's a one-time thing would only
By time.
buy time, but it wouldn't solve the problem.
Complicated.
It is. And there's no real easy answer, but the fact is the budget is sort of a plan, but we know this plan will have to be monitored and scrutinized and examined in detail as we go along. So it's really hard to say, let's pass a budget now that we can just live with for the rest of the year. I don't see how you could ever do that. Because, I mean, especially in this situation. So that's why if you pass the budget, you say, okay, great, now we need to monitor and look and see where we're going each and every month so we know exactly where we're at.
And we did that last year, and we still overspent
Yes,
a ton
of
of money.
course,
We did reduce it in half.
yeah, I was gonna say, we started out at the year estimating it was gonna be like 1.3 million and it ended up 600,000, so which was good. I mean, it's not, I mean, obviously we would
Perfect.
like to get that to zero, but it was better than we initially started out at, so there was some effort made to reduce those expenditures.
Inflation has a lot to do with that, doesn't it?
It did. Your fuel costs, your insurance costs, it just.
It's the cost of doing business.
And you can't control that. Unfortunately, as I said, cities are generally, almost on a fixed income because they basically have a set rate for sales tax and use tax. But your expenditures are not fixed. They will go up with inflation. It's tough.
So, another question here, with your unallocated reserves there, and we run out of money in this 8.3 budget, then is this true the way I understand it, and I may be wrong, I want to find out for sure, that the council is responsible to approve all of the expenditures that come out of the unallocated funds?
Well, normally what would happen is, okay, let's say you have 900,000 in the unallocated. So let's just say another line item is going to go over. Instead of spending it out of unallocated, you don't really spend anything out of unallocated. You move some of that unallocated budget to the other line item, but the board approves that. So technically, as we go through the year, I mean, this may cause Courtney to shoot me, but
It's all right, she's not here.
that's okay. But she would have to present to you a list of the budget transfers, and the board would approve them.
It's just a line item on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that has to be for every single thing that would be,
Well,
or,
in your case, probably it would be best if you did, even though technically when we budget with the county, we only budget each department by personal services, operation and maintenance, and capital outlay. So all of the 201 is operation and maintenance, but all the other departments have their salaries and benefits, that's the personal services, and then the other expenses are operation and maintenance. And we don't have much capital outlay in the general fund. It's usually out of the capital fund. So we don't usually have much capital outlay.
So she would probably present salary for 203, budget transfer for salaries for 203.
Yeah.
But to Troy's point, I mean, if, pick an account, Carrie's here, so I'll pick on Carrie. If library overspent and needed money, we would not have to, the council could theoretically approve a bulk move out of unallocated reserves into the library
Yes.
rather than, well, she needed staples this week,
Right,
tape
right.
next week, so
Right,
we're
and
nickel
actually,
and diming.
we probably do enough.
So, to your point, it's not, it's just a, it's a,
But you
It's a
can't
bulk
purchase it
move.
until we have a council meeting to approve it.
well,
Theoretically,
but that's not solving the problem.
yeah, that's right. That's not, I mean, you're right, it's just moving it.
I get the whole concept. I'm not arguing with you that we can, that we're legally obligated to budget 9.2 million. 100% get that. I also get that you've got 900,000 in unallocated reserves that we're going to have to move this year.
Yes.
My problem is that we're passing a budget tonight that is not really representative of how we're going to stay at 8.3 million. And I'm telling you, I talk to members of the council, not in a quorum, but we do talk. Their expectation is that we will stick to 8.3 million this year. And we've got to figure out how to do it.
Right.
Now or later. If, and it's a huge if, it passes the full council, I don't think there will be the votes to move money out of unallocated reserves. So we continue to kick that can down the road when we've got to start talking now about what do we have got to do to start spending more realistically within our revenues that are coming in. That's what this council is looking for. That's what the people of this community is looking for.
Yes, probably they want to know, but I mean, I don't know if we are going to be able to make all those decisions for the budget time. Because this is not gonna be like, oh, let's snap our fingers and fix the problem. This is gonna take some effort and some time and some consideration and some discussion. We don't have all that time for the budget. So I understand that we need to solve the problem, but the problem won't be solved by next week.
And it won't be solved with an unrealistic budget.
Well, then, the budget can be modified, like I said, transfer, you can move money from any account within that to another account. You can decide not to spend, you can just do all sorts of stuff within the realm of your budget. But we have.
I just don't think it's fair to the community, to the people in Pryor, to just, sit up here and just government spend.
Well, I'm not asking.
No, I get it, and we continue to, we will not have the conversation of what have we got to do to get our expenditures in line with our revenues, keeping in mind that eventually, and it has been reported in the paper, that 1% ad valorem kick in will eventually happen. And I think that is hugely unfair to the people.
Well, if nothing is done within, what do I think, 2 years?
Why would we wait until the end of the day,
You
to
shouldn't.
the
You should-
2
Well, I think
years?
this is where, and I'm gonna butt in, because I think we're kind of kicking the can in a circle. We're not down the road, we're kicking it in a circle. We go back to revenues. We have to be on the same mind that, look, we know that costs have gone up on things. We didn't ask for those costs to go up. We have cut, we have saved, we have cut, we have saved. I don't think there was but any department that was really over budget last year. When you look at them at the end of the year, they were all either fairly flat or under. When we talk about the savings that we've done and the cutting that we've done and the trimming that we've done, it's there. It's there. But I have had very few suggestions or acceptance of hypothetical suggestions. Some of those even went to the paper as doctrine, and they were not doctrine because I've been getting calls from people wanting to know why we were going to do something that we hypothetically talked about. But the idea is that when a council sits up here and says, we're not doing it, okay? You were presented with a budget, you were presented with ideas, we were presented with conversations, invited and welcomed. There has to be more conversation about what we're gonna do to increase revenues. There has to be conversation, what we're gonna do. And when I say increase revenues, and I've been very clear to just about everybody that's come into my office and talked, including Jeff and Courtney and department heads, revenues are not things that we spend directly. It's other ways that we can offset our spending. Whether that means working with partnerships, working with Grand Gateway. We've had a lot of conversation lately with Grand Gateway about grants that we can do to offset some of these things that we've got. There are other towns in our near vicinity that half of their operating budget is through grants. We've got to all be like-minded that that's gonna be our goal, is to find ways to increase our revenues and stop with this death and gloom that is just creating chaos. The cuts are taking place, the cuts are happening, we are monitoring, we are watching, we are having these conversations. But the conversation we're not having, what we're gonna do to help increase revenues. We've even talked about the insurance.
We are having that conversation.
We've talked here in the office about the insurance, and maybe it's time that we go out for an RFP and seek other insurance quotes. Maybe, and I'm not saying this is doctrine, but maybe OMAG isn't the one we need to stay with right now. Maybe there's somebody else out there. Are we prepared to do that? Are we gonna do that? Are we gonna have a fight because we don't like what we're doing? And that's what I'm saying is we're prepared up here to try just about anything before we jump to our number one asset, which is our people. We want to talk about how hard it is to live in 2024. Oh my gosh, it's hard to live. Imagine being in a place that's hard to live and your employer just let you go because they didn't try any other options. I'm sorry, I will hold to my fact that that's the last thing I'll entertain. But in the meantime,
And then I think the entire council, that's the last thing the entire council wants to entertain. But we need to start having that conversation.
we're having that conversation. And here we are, kicking that can in a circle again. And we've got a budget that has got to be approved. What we present, and you correct me if I'm wrong, just push me out of the way if I'm wrong. What we present to that excise board says, hey, we have our legal budgetable number and we have made it balance on paper. There, your accountant just said that's what we need.
It's pretty much, I mean,
So-
Then step two
Is
is
the one that you presented
last
balanced?
week.
well, I mean, you have a legal amount to budget, and that's the amount that I've got right here in total.
Okay.
The
So
county-
workable is another thing.
Workable is another thing. County doesn't care if it's workable. They just want to see something that says you're not going to be placed on the property rolls this year.
Emphasis is on they want to see it.
So, yeah, now, but the budget for the county, once it's in, they don't even look at it, to be honest with you, other than the fact that they just
So the
check,
totals?
just to make sure there's no deficit that they have to fund with property tax. And then they send it into the state, and that's that. But you guys can sit there and work on this all year long. You can do whatever needs to be done. And that's what I would recommend we all do.
Present a workable budget and then start a step two budget. An in-house budget, right?
Yeah,
More
or
or
just,
less,
yeah, basically just keep working at it, keep trying to figure out ways to save money, raise revenues, whatever needs to be done. I
So
know,
budget is a living document, huh?
it is, it's not
Has to
set
be.
in stone,
It has to be.
yeah.
So we got a lot of these to go through tonight. Let's start voting.
Okay, so,
Are you good with us? Can we sit down?
yeah, sure, thank you very much. All right, so what we've got to decide is, the one we have in front of us is the budget that has the 900,000 in general unallocated reserve. So what's your discussions on that now? We've had some pretty good, detailed descriptions about what can happen and what can go on. So what are your thoughts?
I think we've discussed it ad nauseum.
Okay,
I think since it doesn't really matter where these monies are, as long as it's within this legal balanced amount, that it makes in my mind, makes no sense to have the 900,000 in the unallocated funds when we know we're going to spend that,
Or at least break into it.
or at least break into it.
Yeah,
And,
now, we are going to have to pass a budget.
right,
One way or the other, so,
but, exactly, yeah, so,
I just want to say that, you know, at the meeting last week, I was told that we had to have the 900,000 carryover. So that's why,
no, you did what you did.
did what you
You
were
did,
supposed
you
to.
did,
Yep,
you did
you
what
did.
you were, you know, I'm just saying now, after seeing that again and doing that, and then looking back at the other one that, you know, you guys did with, that week before that you presented the last budget meeting, that just, in my mind, seems more realistic and more workable, even though we can still monitor that and move monies as needed, even, I don't know, that just,
I understand what you're saying, and, I mean, either one is fine with me.
right, you just want to get a budget. I get
the
it.
problem is do you wanna move it now, or do you wanna move it later? I mean,
That's just the question.
that's the question. Do you wanna put it in the budget now and hope that we don't spend it? Or do you wanna put it into an account that we have to go after and it has to be approved to pull it out of? That's the question at hand. Because the unallocated funds are going to be, they're going to be drawn from.
Do either of these, like the first one that you presented, that we had at the last budget meeting, that did not have the unallocated reserves, and then the one you just submitted, affect any departments with monies that they may receive from the state?
I don't think so.
They're
I pretty much.
looking at Carrie too. I was like, is that,
I don't think there was any problem.
do you have anything to say to that, Carrie?
Yes, the budget as presented, if my math is correct, everybody gets a cut, but the library is cut almost 15%, police department is cut 5%, fire department is cut 7%. So that's an additional $8,000 that you're cutting from the library's budget. Just so you know.
That original one from the last budget meeting, though, that didn't have unallocated, doesn't affect you at all?
This one in the packet doesn't work, that one also did not work, because it cut the library 12% and it cut everybody else 7%. So, and that's not Jeff's fault, he was using numbers that already existed, but he didn't know what the background.
Are you talking about the one that, before the budget meeting, the one that was updated? The newer one that they did, like, right before our budget meeting?
I have not seen a copy of that budget, no. But the two that have been in the packet, we would not qualify for state aid with either of those budgets. And we will deal with it if that's what you and the council decide. I just want it to be clear that that's where we are.
So what would you have to do to qualify for state aid?
To qualify for state aid, if our budget is reduced, that's not a big deal as long as everyone is reduced the same percentage. So if we're reduced 15%, if everybody else is reduced 15%, then it's fine. But if we're reduced 15% and others are reduced less, then it's not fine.
Can I?
How much percentage can it be off? Or can it be off?
I have not asked those questions because I didn't know what reality we were dealing with today. So,
Is it okay to show her this copy of what I have from?
I mean, honestly,
you
let me tell you what
I don't think you
what I
have
need
to
is, I need numbers. I need to know how many staff members I can have so I can determine what the library's hours are gonna be. I need to know what our operations budget is going to be so I can determine whether or not we can pay our bills. That's what I need. And whatever you guys decide that percentage cut is great. I just need to know. Because I can't do my job until City Hall and City Council work together to figure out this budget.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Carrie.
Okay, so what we've got here is we're looking at this budget with the 900,000 in the unallocated reserve. I guess that's what we're going to vote on. So, further discussion? I know, it's not easy, is it? This is what we have to present to the council and try to get passed by next week, right? We have to turn this in next week, correct? Before the first, or we're gonna be
It
under
has to
penalty?
Turned in, and it has to be published in the paper. So if you passed it next week, that would be the 17th. Would that be time to publish it?
To get it in the, what's the following Monday?
That would be the 23rd.
Yeah, because then we could present it to the county clerk, and she could have it to them by October 1.
Okay.
So it's gotta be done pretty much next council meeting.
Well, I mean, if it's not, it's just, I don't know.
What happens if it doesn't, council doesn't pass it?
Well, if it doesn't go, I honestly, I'm not sure. If it doesn't go to the excise board doesn't approve it, I don't know. I've not really had that as a issue before. I've known some towns have done that late, and nothing has ever happened that I know of.
See, this is the one I had. This is the one I had from before the last, right?
Using this one here, that's what this column is, right?
Right.
This is, I just pulled it up, so the math was correct. Percentage decrease calculator.
Hmm?
This is the police, that's 1,022,000.
See, I don't think she's
Get that?
seen this. I don't think
I have
they've
no
seen
clue.
this one.
Police would be 7% increase. Library is a 5%. That saves her money, based on the last budget that was presented.
Terry?
So, that was
Can we do that
the
at a further
consideration, that she would be protected under the
What's
last
going on
budget.
right now?
I don't know.
So, just keep that in mind.
So, I just don't know,
Can we do that at a public meeting? A private discussion between the mayor and you guys?
With information, I'm sure you can.
Not all of us.
But you can, you
It's
can
not
give that
a secret.
information.
Well, why did you go up there and just share it with them?
Because I was just showing them a number.
Let's hear it.
Go ahead and share
yeah,
it.
go ahead.
So, I pulled up a reduction percentage calculator to make sure that it was done right. With the budget presented last time, this is exactly where you were there, if I say anything different than I did. For example, the police department, last year budgeted $4,022,984.14. This year on that budget we presented previously was $3,731,127.84. That's a little more than a 7% reduction. If I go to carries, and I did the same thing, I came up with a 5% reduction. That was taken into consideration when Courtney and I sat down. We made sure that that was considered when we did that, based on those reductions.
Does that include the SROs?
No, that does not include the SROs, so it would be even greater. And the SROs have been pulled to their own budget, so.
All right.
Any questions on that? Any ancillary to what I was doing?
Ask Terry. You okay with that, Terry? You okay with that explanation?
Not really.
Okay.
The SROs aren't part of 3.7, then you're not comparing apples to apples. If they've been taken out of the police budget, and now they're a separate budget to make it look like it's a reduction of the police budget, it's not.
Other than the fact that we do have revenue coming in for the SROs, right? That's not budgeted,
It's how it's budgeted.
huh?
It's how it's budgeted.
It's not, that money's not in this budget to pay the SROs. That wasn't considered.
Is there an SRO line item?
There's a SRO department, right?
Right.
Yes, SROs
But-
are a new department, and that was a fulfillment of a request by the council.
Mhm.
We did it exactly as they were asking. It's now 02214.
Can you come to the podium? People are saying they can't hear in the audience.
Tell her to turn her phone up. The SROs are 02214 now.
Mhm.
That was the request that the council made. We had no problem. That is not an issue. We pulled that out of there. keep in mind that is a 12-month salary that was calculated into that. Reduced down as much as we could in terms of times we haven't had an SRO in one of the spots, the SROs that have not been able to fulfill their positions, is that correct?
Correct.
So, based on that, it's almost like a completely separate budget from the police department. And I can run those numbers for every department in here and tell you what the percent reduction is based on that last one. I have no problem doing that.
And also. you
Take a
can't-
5-minute recess and I'll go back and
But
add
you
it all
can't
up.
budget, you can't budget in the money that's coming from the schools into our budget that way.
Well, we did, we budgeted.
90% of last year's revenue, we don't do 100% of expected revenues. The only way we do that is through MUB, and only because they're a department of the city.
So the school money wasn't really,
The increase wasn't budgeted, we budgeted the 90% of whatever they paid last year.
Which was of the 260.
right, and we got an increase off of that, plus another 25 for insurance.
And the billable overtime and the billable training, those are all added to that. But we did not calculate in the overtime or the training because that's invoiceable.
Right,
Meaning if the contract dissolved itself, it would not affect our budget
right.
for those
So
items.
the SROs have income coming in that's actually not budgeted into the budget at this time.
How much, what is the SRO budget?
Right now, we're,
We need to kind of keep the meeting on track. We're getting off track, by the way.
Okay.
yeah, we probably can't even
Squirreling
talk
out.
about that till we get over there.
482, 800.
Mhm.
482, 800?
Mhm.
What would you add, 482, 800 to 3.7?
Oh, yeah.
Less than police budget last
We need to
year? Or
wrap the meeting
It's
up.
teeny tiny.
Mhm.
That's what it is on this one. On the one from last budget meeting that was presented.
515.
Yes.
515,
On this one.
284, and 19 cents. So I
Okay.
think we need to get back to the 201 line that we're on.
We need to get
We
going.
need to get moving.
We need to get going. Okay, so any further discussion on 201, whether we're going to accept the budget with the 900,000 in general unallocated reserve in excess? Call for the vote.
Trammell,
No,
Shropshire,
No.
Bradshaw,
No.
So we have to pass something on since we voted no for this one. And the reason we voted no is because this is not a doable one, right?
it's unrealistic. Mayor's
Unrealistic.
word.
So that takes us to part two. Do we go over to the fully budgeted 9.2 that has no unallocated reserves and vote on passing that one?
Can we do that since it's not on the agenda?
Well, it doesn't say which one we're on the agenda. It just says pass 201.
But the packet, we just voted down the budget that was in the packet. Can we go back to a previous packet and start voting on that budget? Since it was not presented in the,
I do not. Would that be,
With your vote to say no, that closes out item 4. But if you were to change the motion to go to it, it's just, that's not provided in the packet. So you'd be voting to take on the previously presented budget. I recommend that to council, but it's not in the packet.
can we legally do that? Huh?
Now, let me go make a phone call. So we recess.
Yeah. We'll take a 5-minute recess.
You want to look at that one, Carrie?
Huh?
You want to look at that one?
No.
Just offering.
Have you seen too many numbers?
Well, I don't think, for some reason, I don't know why they never saw this one. I don't know.
And the opinion is, since the 9.2 budget
Do we have to
with
call anything back to
zero-
order? Do you have to resume?
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. I just don't want us to be out
Good
of.
idea. All right, we call the meeting back to order. Thank you. So we have heard that it would be legal to talk about the 9.2 budget with zero unallocated funds, because that's what we were working off of during the last budget meeting. So that was the one that we rejected the last time. But we have the opportunity to readdress it. So let's discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding general government budget fund number 201 for 2024-2025 for the budget that has zero fund balance, unallocated funds. Discussion.
I need a motion and second.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I'll
that's right.
entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Thank you. No further discussion?
All right, wait.
Okay.
So we need to discuss this.
Okay.
Okay, so just kind of during that recess, some things were brought. Perhaps, what would it look like to, we have our hiring freeze, right? To potentially maybe even, vote for this budget, but maybe, and I don't even know what it looks like, this would involve a lot of discussion as to what this would look like, but some type of spending freeze that either was we lower the amount for obviously the non-fixed lines, I'm not talking about salaries, insurance, the ones we know are gonna pay, but other spending lines. Maybe somehow lower the amount that either council or mayor signs off on, or there's a percent of those lines, like when they've spent 50 to 60% of that budget line, it has to have council approval or something to do, just to help watch the spending. We learned, and Jeff's told us, the hiring freeze was very effective and did help in that savings from not hiring. So maybe some type of sticking with that hiring freeze, and then maybe some spending, because then that is I know it would be difficult, I get it, but there's no layoffs, no cuts, it's working within the budget in essence.
Now, if we approve this to go before the council, this means that we have to make sure that all of these departments and everything, we don't spend the full amount of money that's budgeted in that department. That's got to be a given.
So would this be a way to help with that?
We would have to do that during council. I don't think we could.
You can't do it here.
I'm not even
think it needs to-
suggesting we do it here, I'm just
Yeah.
suggesting maybe
It's a
that's a
good-
way
it's a good
forward
thought,
with
yeah.
this budget that was just brought to our attention.
Putting
from the recess.
spending caps is something that would probably need to go on a full council agenda
Sure,
down the road.
sure, I agree and
We have
understand
to
that.
figure out
I'm just
how-
trying to figure out how we can get a budget move forward tonight and potentially then voted on next Tuesday and passed. If we have things that we're talking about, maybe in throwing out, that will help that happen.
Does this budget that was in tonight's packet and/or the packet from the last special budget and personnel meeting we have include a budgeted amount for currently vacant positions?
The budget that is from the last meeting, with the exception of two officers that just left this week,
On 9/2.
tail end of last week. They wrapped up all of their time. Most every, if I'm not mistaken, all extra positions were removed. If it said open, out.
You had to keep those on there, if I'm understanding what Lisa was
The
saying.
two that were
You
there.
had to keep them on there because they were gonna get paid in this fiscal year, so you had to leave those positions on there
Is that-
because they
Well,
were.
we left them because they were
They were
still
still
employed.
I mean, they were still employed, that's what I'm saying, they were still
Yeah,
employed
they
and
were
on
still
payroll, right?
employed,
So you
I
had to,
budget-
there's no way you could
I
take that off.
budget a year's worth of salaries and benefits for who's there, what they've picked for their benefits.
Right.
For a whole year, they were
Right.
there. I don't always know when people are leaving anyway, and
Sure.
you know, we're budgeting, we're supposed to do a budget for July 1, everybody was there, so.
Okay,
But also where we had partial term salaries, those were modified for the term that the people were employed. So hypothetical, you got somebody who left after 6 months, we calculated up 6 months for that singular position. Does that make sense? So Lisa did go into all of that math to reduce any unspendable or unspent amount that would just be sitting there open. The only two that we know right now are empty spots that are open are the two that just left last week.
okay. No other spots
Right.
are budgeted.
And one in
Oh, and one
SRO.
SRO because that's
We
contract.
contract that, yeah. Okay,
And you also have one that you need to fill at the cemetery.
It's not an open position right now.
Okay.
We took that out,
We took it
You
out.
actually took that one out?
Yep.
too, huh?
yes.
Yes, I mean, we took them out.
Wow.
So, you know, the idea there is, and please understand that even if they're there, they're gonna have to come to you for approval anyway. And at this point, if we get into a situation where we need to reopen a position, say another one at the cemetery, they're gonna have to come to you anyway. So the power lies in the council's hand whether that's there or not. If we have to recreate a budgeted position, then the council just has to say, okay. It's the same as either way, so it's irrelevant at this point, whether it's open or closed, but we've closed them because we don't want to budget those funds. That was all part of the cut, so
okay.
even deeper than original. Does that answer your question?
Okay, further discussion on 201? All right, call for the vote. Now, this is for the one that doesn't have any general unallocated or reserve excess.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes,
Trammell.
No.
Okay, discuss possible recommend council action regarding community development budget fund number 203 for 2024 and 2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Any problems with that one?
Are all of these now working off the,
Same one. Yeah, we
okay.
can't swap back.
I
and
didn't think
forth.
so, but
No,
I was just
uh-uh.
making sure we didn't have to do that every time as well, like we had to,
Yeah, this
Okay.
just means we're gonna have to put extra control on everything that's going on. Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
So to approve 203 from the previous budget meeting.
That's true. That's correct.
So wait, we're approving 203 from this one or the previous one?
The one with the no allocated, reserves, no one allocated reserves. is there? Because one, you can't swap back and forth between them.
Well, we've been swapping back and forth all night, so what the?
We haven't voted on anything except this one. Well, we voted on the other one and then we went to this one. Okay, this is for the one that we worked on last week. Okay, call for the vote?
Bradshaw,
yes.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire.
Yes. Okay, discuss recommend council action regarding planning and zoning budget fund number 205 for fiscal year 2024, 2025. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. You got anything with that one? Any problems with that one? No discussion, call for the vote.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Okay, discuss possibly recommend council action regarding managerial budget, fund number 207 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. We discussed all this last week, didn't we?
Last month, yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess right,
I mean,
yeah, last month, yeah,
It was,
last meeting.
last meeting.
All right, call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Okay, discuss possibly recommend council action regarding facilities department budget, fund number 208 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Okay, call for the vote.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Okay. Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding city attorney budget, fund number 211 for 2024-2025.
You skipped clerical.
Oh, I'm still clerical, okay, excuse me. Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding clerical accounting budget, fund number 209 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. All right, call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Okay. Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding city attorney budget, fund number 211 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Okay, call for a vote.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes. Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding city treasurer budget, fund number 213 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? No discussion, call for the vote.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Number 12, discuss possibly recommend council action regarding school reserve officer budget, fund number 214 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. No discussion, call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Okay. Number 13, discuss possibly recommend council action regarding police budget fund number 215 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. No discussion, call for the vote.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes. Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding animal shelter budget, fund number 216 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. No discussion, call for the vote.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Number 15, discuss possible recommend council action regarding fire department budget, fund number 217 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, discussion. Call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding park budget, fund number 219 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. Call for the vote.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes. Discuss possibly recommend council action regarding the library budget, fund number 221 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Having no discussion, call for the vote.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Discuss, recommend council action regarding cemetery budget, fund number 223 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding the CEM, the emergency management budget, from fund number 225 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, call for the vote.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes. Discuss, possibly recommend council action regarding municipal court budget, fund number 231 for 2024-2025 fiscal year. Entertain a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, call for the vote.
Trammell,
No.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Okay, I don't know of any unforeseen businesses, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Call for the vote.
Shropshire,
Yes.
Bradshaw,
Yes.
Trammell,
Yes.
I don't know what else we can do. I mean, we gotta have it in by Tuesday, so we can adjust it after that, right?
It's not going to pass the council.
Well, I figured it won't, but what were you gonna send them, 7 of them?
Wasn't going to send them